Hey, what's up, everybody? So, today we're going to be talking about the bar exam. I know that around February and July of every year, aspiring attorneys are like freaking out because they have this big test to take that really determines whether or not they'll be barred in their state. But I kind of want to just chop it down to size because I feel like there's way too much talk about this exam in a way that is not like encouraging or exciting. And I feel like I want to give you guys some practical tools, things that I did that really helped me. So I hope it helps you, and let's get into it. I brought my little notebook. I have notes. And I really this is really supposed to be helpful. So if there's anything in this video that I talk about that you guys want me to expand on, let me know in the comments and I will make a whole new video and just address that thing. Perfect. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is learning how you learn. I think a lot of people get to the bar exam and they're studying and they don't know how they learn. And what I mean by that is, are you a visual learner? Are you like audio? Whatever is your learning style. Some people learn by writing it multiple times. You have to figure that out because the time frame that you're working, you don't have all the time in the world to figure out how you learn and then to go study for the bar. You need to know how you learn. And for me, I think it became very, very obvious that I had no idea how I learned for this type of exam. So as many of you know, I used to be a dancer, and that's very like visual learner, right? See it a million times, can replicate exactly what that looked like. But for the bar exam, my learning style had switched a little bit. I had to write a lot more, and I had to look at videos. That's where the visual learner comes in, but not the lecture videos. My videos were more so like small little snippets of an issue or pictures. Those things really stuck in my brain and helped me. So I really want you guys to figure out how you learn. There's a bunch of quizzes online you can take to figure that out, or you can just tap into yourself and figure out like, okay, this is working, this is not working. And when you find something is not working, revamp. Change. Don't just sit there doing the same thing, expecting a result that's positive when you know for a fact that actually isn't even how you learn. If you have questions about that, let me know. Happy to help. Then I also, when I said like chopping it down to size, what I mean by that is like the bar exam is a points game, period. It's not about how smart you are. I'm going to say that again. It's not about how smart you are. It is literally about, can you give them what they're asking for? And for those of you who take like prep programs, Themis, Barbary, any of the programs, you know that there's a template. There is a, answer document. There's ways that things are supposed to go. And this is all about hitting all of those points and passing the exam. So just realize that this is not something that is going to defeat you. This is not something that you can't pass. This is you realizing that you have to know how you learn and you have to get the points in order to pass, whatever that is for your state. I think New York is, I know because it was ingrained into my head. New York is 266. That's what I kept saying, a 266. And this is a minimum competency exam. So you have to just be able to go ahead, hit that minimum score, and I don't care if you pass with a 266, you passed. That's it. All right? Okay, so I have 5 things I want to jump into. The first being your prep program. Some people just like to use like the adaptive bars and the U worlds, and I think those are great because they bring the real NCBE questions from previous exams and you get to go through them. But what I would recommend is a prep program. I took Barbary. A lot of people say that the Barbary questions are harder than the bar exam questions. And from my experience, and you guys, let me know in the comments if you think differently, I feel like the Barbary questions were 2 issue questions, which is what made it a little more complex. Like, what I mean by that is you had to know X in order to get to Y and get the question right in Barbary. Whereas when I started doing U World questions, you just had to know X and that's the answer. So I don't know. I would say maybe a mix of the 2 would be helpful. That's what I did. I started Barbary and I did Barbary all the way through until the 2 weeks before the exam. And then I started adding in the U World questions. So whatever floats your boat, but that's what I did. 2 things about Barbary that I think are golden that you need to take with you. One, the answers to the questions, like after you do a multiple choice question and you get this response, that is golden. Like if you see that you continuously are getting, let me get a topic, Fifth Amendment questions wrong, right? Go in, look at the explanation, and write it down. Explain to yourself why what you're doing is incorrect and why what they are looking for is correct. Like convince yourself so that when you're doing it, it's like, no, I know it's not that because this. And it becomes very simple when you can kind of have that, like, you can square what's going on in your brain. We all know, like, when you get to the question and you're like, no, no, and it's between two, but you can't figure out why. That's the difference between the person who really knows it and the person who gets the gist. You have to know why. Like, yeah, it's like no, no, yes, yes. The because is like the sweet spot, right? So what I did is I would look at the Barbie questions and then I would just explain to myself why what I was doing was incorrect. That was one of the biggest things that I did that really helped me with the multiple choice. And then I would say for the MEE portion, which is the essays, I did it backwards. I started at the essay answer and I went through and I read it. Like I was like, oh, okay, this is the topic. This is what we're talking about. It's contracts, whatever. And I went through and I was like, oh, okay, that is how they want me to regurgitate what I'm going to write on my exam. After I read it, I was like, okay, let me see if I can write that. That was the hard part. For a while, I just couldn't write it. And I know a lot of people struggle with that. Like, I can't get the essay out. I don't know enough. I don't know the rules. I don't know this. I don't know that. And that's true. Because in the beginning, you won't know the rules. Like, you're just now being introduced to these topics in this way, because the way they teach it in law school is different than how it's taught for the bar exam. You really have to take a moment and just give yourself that grace. It doesn't mean that you're not smart. It doesn't mean that you won't get it later. It means that right now, where you are, you need that answer kind of as a crutch, right? You're learning. Like, I need this. Let me lean on this. I have it. What happened to me was I didn't want to lean on them at first. I was like, oh, I'm cheating. No, you're not cheating. You literally bought the program. They gave it to you. It's yours. Use it as you see fit. So I literally would look at the essay, that like the essay prompt. I would issue spot that without like knowing what the answer was. And then I would go to the answer, read the answer, and write the answer word for word. This leads me into number 2. There is a book called F, the Bar Exam. Okay? Love this book. I got the PDF version. There's a bunch of PDFs out there. Ask somebody. Ask me. I'll send it to you. All good. But the book has strategies for how to tackle the bar exam. And a few different things, gems, that I got from that book are that you can do your program straight through, or you can do the skill that's being asked of you, which is the practice problems, the essays, and the MPTs. That's it. The lectures, they're great. When you're in the beginning, watch them on 1.5 speed. Like, you got to get through them. But at a certain point, you have to realize that the exam is asking you to do multiple choice questions, and the exam is asking you to write essays. If you spend your study period watching videos and doing like small sets, 8 questions, 9 questions, it's almost like you're dead in the water. You have to put yourself into the ringer immediately. You have to be like, okay, the exam says 200 questions. Can I do 50? The exam says whatever. And then you build up your tolerance, right? So I loved that book because it revamped my study habits. I used the Barbie program. I used the Barbie questions, but I did it in the format that was given in that book. So real gem, F the bar exam. You might want to pick it up. And then I want to talk about, this is a good one. This is the one I love. So a lot of people, including myself, were like, how do you memorize all of this stuff? There are literally like 14 topics spanning all of law. Like, it's so much to really take in. And I say this to everybody who I have mentored. It is not memorization for memorization's sake. It is memorization by way of repetition. if you do this thing every day for 3 months, you will literally be able to regurgitate what has been said to you over the course of your study period. But if you do like, I'm going to get the gist of the rule, and you write something like it, and every time you write it, you switch it a little bit, it's not going to stay ingrained in you. If I say the sky is blue and I say it like that every day, on day 30, I can say the sky is blue. But if I say the sky is kind of mixed with red and like a little other color and like get the gist of it, there's no way I can replicate that exact same thing. And the bar exam, like I said, is about points, replication. Points, replication. Go in and look at the answer and give it right back to them. Don't make it up. Don't figure out what you think sounds smart. Literally, give them back what's in the book. That is what I did. And that is how I passed on my first try. There are also other things, like people use critical pass cards. Kaplan has some flashcards. I had these big poster boards where I would literally write out things like step 1 is this, step 2 is that. When I was analyzing a question, and breaking it up into steps was super useful for me, because I felt like, yes, you can know the answer, but there's just a point where you like have to figure out how you get to that answer in order to not get derailed. Like, you have 1 minute and 48 seconds to answer every multiple choice question. So you want to just make sure in your head that you're like, okay, did I do this? It's done. Check. Let's go to the next. Like, you don't have that type of time. Another thing I guess I would say is that I started timing myself, and I didn't do it right away. I don't want to scare anybody. I did not do it right away, but timing myself, putting myself into that pressure, doing the diagnostic at the halfway point. I know a lot of people get scared and they don't do it, or a lot of people like look at their books or their notes when they do it. It's like, you need to do it. I did the diagnostic, and 2 weeks before the bar exam, I failed the diagnostic. I was at like the bottom 7%. But seeing all my problem areas laid out, bunch of yellow on the sheet, like red, yellow. I had very little green, 7%, bottom 7%. It was so eye-opening to me to say, Ayana, you need to start with con law because you barely got anything right. Then you need to go to contracts, and then you need to hit property. And I will never forget how low those scores were. And that is where I focused my attention. And then another thing I would say is that I started to focus on the areas where I had problems, but to focus on the subsections within those areas that were weighted the most. So again, points game. It's not about knowing everything. It's not about being the smartest. Like I said, I was in the bottom 7% of everyone in New York, all 10,000 of us, taking this exam 2 weeks before the bar. That is a scary place to be. But when you can pinpoint, 1, how you learn, 2, what you need to be focused on. You don't need to keep doing the same problems you're getting right. Yes, you want to do them in your practice, but you're not going to like spend all day on the problems you're getting right. You need to spend all day on the problems you're getting wrong and do the skill being asked of you on the exam. Watching all those videos is great if that is how you learn. But if you're like me and the videos don't stick, you need to be doing practice problems every day, drilling every day, as many as you can every day. Whatever you can stomach. Some days for me, it was 20. Some days it was 80. Like, whatever you can stomach, you give yourself that grace. And then the last thing I guess I want to say is for my repeat takers. Don't let anybody make you feel like you are not smart because you did not pass on the first try. That is complete BS. And like I said, you have to know how to take this exam in order to pass it. It's not about your smarts. If you got to the bar exam, you are so smart. And you have to hold that in your heart as you're studying. Know that and carry that with you. Say affirmations over yourself. Like, bless yourself. Because at this point, you need every piece of your energy that you can get. And then I will say too, like, when you go back into that exam, you're not starting from scratch. You're not starting over. You're starting from experience. You're actually the most qualified in the room, if you want to be honest. So I believe in you. For my repeat takers, for my first time takers, you can do this. Let me know if you have anything that I mentioned on this list that you want to talk about. Barbary, essays, memorization by way of repetition, not just for memorization's sake. Doing the skill being asked of you, reading the book, the points game, any of it. I'm here to talk about all of it. We all need to pass. It is 100% possible, and I believe in you. So as always, I hope that among these gems, you find at least one that you need. XOXO, day.